big win for the administration this week with tax reform. But how are you guys going to sell it? Because you look at the polls, a lot of folks are concerned that this is only going to help the wealthy. How do you sell it to folks who are skeptical?
It's a big win for the country, and it really is a bill that we're going to see grow the economy, make sure middle-income families keep more of their hard-earned money, and give businesses competitive rates, small, medium, and large businesses, so they can pay their workers more, as we've been seeing announcements coming across the board from a lot of big companies, Comcast, Boeing, obviously it's talked about this, AT&T. They're either raising their minimum wage as a result of what they see through this tax policy. They're giving bonuses in the thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of workers. In some cases, they're even investing in infrastructure because of tax reform. So we've seen a lot of these benefits immediately. As to the polls, I will say, someone who spent a lot of time in political strategy, you really have to question the methodology of polls that really have double-digit increase in Democrats sampled versus Republicans.
You don't buy these polls.
Well, listen, I don't. Frankly, and as someone who understands and reading polls, it's clear that the questions, the way they're asked and the way you're actually doing your sample size skews the result. They're trying to actually shape public opinion, not reflect it. But even if we accept the premise, these polls show that Americans are concerned they're not going to get a tax cut. The reality is they are. Joint Committee on Tax confirmed 85% of Americans get a significant tax cut.
To Republicans who say they're concerned about deficits, you say?
We are growing the economy. Look, when you go from 2% GDP, and you know this, Kevin, to 3% GDP, which is frankly where we've been in 2 consecutive quarters under the Trump presidency. That is trillions of dollars of economic activity. That is obviously money that increases revenue to the government. That's how you are going to finance the deficit. You're not going to be able to get a deficit under control at 2% economic growth. So you grow the economy, you then can meaningfully address debt and deficit.
Goldman Sachs analysts releasing a report saying that they're anticipating a bit of more economic growth as a result of the tax plan. New York Fed increasing their fourth quarter growth to 4%. But look, Democrats are going to hammer this in 2018. You know this from your political strategist background. But to Democrats who say this is going to shape the 2018 midterms, we heard it from Senator Scott over at the White House the other day. But what do Republicans have to do heading into the midterms to defend this bill?
We certainly hope it shapes the midterms because Democrats voted against middle-income tax cuts. They voted against the lowest tax rate on small businesses in 80 years. And they voted against American workers getting their paychecks increased. Listen, it's partisanship. It's obstruction. Democrats have supported in the past a 35% top rate. Ron Wyden introduced a 35% top rate in 2011. He now says 37% is too high, it's too low, and that only helps the rich. You've also had Democrats in the past support President Obama bringing the corporate rate down into the 20s. They couldn't get it done. We did. So we welcome them now for the next 8 years to work to make the middle income side of this tax cut, the individual side, permanent, because we know middle income families will benefit from the doubling of the standard deduction, lower rates, doubling of the child tax credit.
Headlines crossing the terminal now. President Trump set to sign that tax bill in about 30 minutes. Of course, he's able to do that because the government passed that partial government funding bill, keeping the government funded for about 1 more month. When lawmakers come back, though, Tony, they've got their hands full. I mean, they've got a lot to do. So in terms of setting the calendar for next year and legislative priorities, what is the #1 priority of this administration for next calendar year? Is it infrastructure?
Well, infrastructure is a very big priority, obviously, of the administration. It's something we're going to be focused on. There's going to be trade issues that come up that we're dealing with. Listen, but in this tax bill, let's not forget, we've repealed the individual mandate on Obamacare. 80% of people who pay that tax made under $50,000 a year. We've opened up ANWR. So not just focused on energy independence, which is a priority for years, but energy dominance. That's what the United States should be focusing on. So we're very excited about what we just did. A lot of accomplishments this year, great economic growth, great market growth, great optimism across all sectors, manufacturing, small business, home building, and consumer. But now we're going to obviously continue to talk about tax reform and why it's helpful for Americans, but we are going to focus on big issues like infrastructure, trade, and others.
Do you think, in the minute that we have left, do you think that there's going to have to be a longer-term type of CR? I mean, how do you navigate that? Or what does the administration want to see in a longer-term CR to keep the government funded when they get back?
Well, listen, I think it's important that we actually get the budget passed, and this is a way that Washington has been working for far too long. It's dysfunctional.
Uncertainty.
We need budget reforms. But look, the president's made it absolutely clear we do not want to play politics with continuing resolutions. We want to fund the government. We want to fund the military, make sure people get essential services. So we want to make sure we get away from this CR to CR process that Washington's been operating under for too long.